music tells me it is time to start the show. Welcome to another Bullpen episode of Disclosure, which is a special edition of this program just for men. I think Just for Men is actually the name of a beard dyeing product, isn't it, guys? There's a bunch of guys here in the studio with me.
I don't know about that.
Isn't that called
yet.
Just for Men? When
Yeah, I think you're right.
dye the, yeah. Anyway, but this is a radio broadcast just for men, an exclusive broadcast for the male half of the species where we gather a group of regular guys. Well, I don't know about these guys, if they're regular or not, but close to it, as close to regular guys as I can find. And we discuss the worlds of religion and life and maleness and a bunch of other stuff. Actually, whatever comes to mind. It's guys only. So what we do in this show, we climb up into our fort, we pull in the ladder behind us, we hang out a no girls allowed sign. And that's right, you heard it correctly. We practice complete and utter discrimination, unabashed, unashamed gender preference in this show. And if that bothers you, if you don't think anybody should ever be excluded from anything at any time, if you grew up in a world where everybody always wins and everybody always gets a blue ribbon, then it might be very helpful for you to think of this show as a safe space for men. This is a place where we can go. It just doesn't have the puppy videos and the coloring books, but it's a safe place for men, apart from the rest of the world, where we can talk openly and honestly and examine the big questions of life. And we can ask ourselves if the Christian religion is still for guys, or if it's something that left them in the dust several generations ago. So today in studio, I've got Alex Rodriguez, the Director of Evangelism at the Voice of Prophecy. I've got Kyle Warren, who works in our creative department and makes us look pretty every day, Kyle. And making me look pretty, not an easy job.
I do my best.
You do your best to color. Do I get to keep my, what color am I? Do you have a color palette for my face?
No.
After Just for Men, then you're
If I'm using Just for Men, yeah. A little bit of gray.
A little bit gray.
My skin would be something like mango smoothie or papaya smoothie or something like that.
We have our own proprietary blend.
Yeah, that matches mine. And we got Ruben Gomez, who's actually the producer of this program. And he's also the voice of Jake Donovan on Discovery Mountain. Isn't that right?
That's right.
We won't make you do the voice here today.
Oh, thanks.
No, I think we will, won't
Let's
we?
do it.
Let's do it. Let's hear the voice.
All right, fine.
Go.
It's a disaster.
Yeah, now we can't let you in the bullpen
No.
anymore.
Now,
No, you're out of here.
Don't ever do that again.
All right, so we got
hey, you asked me to.
Alex and Kyle and Ruben, and of course yours truly, your not-so-modest host. And I can afford to be not so modest because it's the bullpen, and my wife's not here to make me feel more modest or tell me to calm it
To
down.
rein it in.
Yeah, rein it in. Do you get that one? Rein it in?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Because I can be immodest once in a while. And guys, welcome to the show. Our topic today, does the world still need fathers? And I know some people are saying, well, what a stupid topic. Of course, the world still needs fathers. Whoever said that we don't? Well, some people have said that. And the only way you can say nobody's ever said the world doesn't need fathers is to not pay attention to social developments in the Western world over the last, 50 years.
Yeah.
Seems like we've moved out of the era of the ever-wise Ward Cleaver in Leave It to Beaver, or what was the other show? The one with the dad, All My Sons, or the hands clap in the beginning. You guys aren't as old as me.
I don't remember that.
You're almost as old
It was
as
not
me.
during my generation.
I was gonna
It
ask
was too.
you.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
just
trying to
too
know
generation.
that one.
Okay, but look at the fathers on television shows from the 1950s and compare it to the fathers in television shows now. We've gone from Ward Cleaver to Homer Simpson, and the messaging is not terribly good, right? No, it's not terribly good. Fathers are the buffoons. Everybody in a show is smarter than the father.
Yeah.
Happens to be true in my house, happens to be true, but as a rule, they're portraying fathers as morons.
You're not helping things here.
I know.
All right, I'm the reason that Hollywood went that way.
I doubt that.
All right.
There's probably something else going on there.
Well, of course, on the more radical fringes of society, or the more radical fringes of the feminist movement, we've seen people suggest we don't need men at all. They're just not needed. Maybe I've seen people say maybe we can figure out how to even reproduce without men. We just take the DNA and clone the cells and transfer DNA from one woman to another. So let me do this today to kick off the show. Let me launch the show with a disturbing story that popped up in my newsfeed a few weeks ago. I don't know if you guys saw it. I think you did because I sent it to you ahead of the show. A father who is fighting to keep his 6-year-old son from having to go through gender reassignment surgery. That makes me cross my legs. It's just like, I guess he broke up with his wife, and the wife insists that the little boy is actually a girl. And it brings up a whole set of issues with the whole transgender movement. It'll be a different show. This whole idea that you should surgically alter little kids who experience gender dysphoria as little children. It's a different show. But here's how the story shakes out. I guess the mother takes the little boy to a gender transition therapist in Texas who explains that in reality, little James, 6 years old, is actually a girl. So mom renames him Luna and starts making him wear dresses. That's bad enough, but what's interesting about this show, for the purposes of this show, they went to court, and it turns out the father has no say in this. He's concerned when the boy comes to his house. The boy says, I don't want to wear dresses. I'm a little boy. But a judge in Texas has now forbidden him from telling his son that he's a boy and has forbidden him to give him boys' clothes to wear when he comes to visit, even though it's what the boy wants, and insists that he's a boy. So that's disturbing. But let me ask this question. Here's the reason I brought it up in a father show. Why do you think the father's opinion in this case, or really in a lot of custody cases, is valued less than mothers are? Have you noticed this trend?
I haven't noticed that.
Yeah. What's your feeling on this? When you guys saw that article, I did forward it to you.
You did,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, gut reaction.
Well, I think gut reaction. There's such a motherly instinct. Mother and children that just come together. Fathers at work, and we've had a society that has done that for so many years.
Right.
And so I think maybe some of that has had some to play in the fact that when you think about who does the child go with, who does he need to be with? Well, it's the mother. He needs to be with the mother, and sometimes I think the father just kind of gets dropped off. Well, he's not around a lot anyway.
Right.
So we might as well just listen to the mom, and here you are. But in this case,
Well, this one
it's
bugs
sad.
me. This
Yeah,
story
yeah.
just bugs me. It's
Yeah.
like,
But
wait a
it's-
minute. Why the father's not allowed to tell his son he's a boy, but the mother insists this? He's 6 years old. What they're planning is chemical castration
yeah.
by the age of 8.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what they're planning for. And the dad's word has in court. Just no weight whatsoever.
My heart goes out to this dad because you're sitting there looking at this from the outside, and I know, like me, if I was watching this or if this was going on in my house, you would feel like you've got no control of the situation, and everyone has lost
Is this
their
going
mind.
on at your house?
No,
No.
yeah, no.
No, but it
No.
does. It seems
We're going through
surreal,
that.
but somehow society got to this point where the judge weighs in favor of. Do you think it's a factor that it's the dad who wants something different? Is that a factor in this case?
What's interesting to me, and maybe that is a factor. Who knows? But why is the gender reassignment person? I'm not going to say always because that's like, oh, he's wrong. It's not always, but it seems like in a high, count of these cases, the gender reassignment person is a woman. And it's like, to me, it's like they've all gotten together and like, yeah, we're going to do this.
Well, here's what bothers me. It goes beyond. This case is like, I had to pick something from way past the end zone. This is an extreme story.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at other cases, and I'm not going to say that what I'm about to suggest is moral in any case. But it seems that in today's world that, let's say a man sleeps with a woman and she's pregnant. I'm not suggesting this is moral. This is a Christian show. We believe sex is for marriage. It's for the holy confines of marriage and so on. But let's say that happens. The woman's not bound to tell him by law. And if she decides to terminate the pregnancy, have an abortion, she's not bound to tell him by law. If she has the baby, he is bound by law to support it forever. And it seems, or if there's a divorce in the child custody case, it seems like 98, and I'm pulling that number out of my hat, but I know it's the vast majority of cases, custody automatically goes to the mother and the father automatically pays. Have we come to the point where the father's opinion in family matters is just not valued?
I think that's the case. I think that's at least what the indication. That's where we've gone. I'm not sure that that's where it was always, but I definitely think that that's where we are now.
Do you guys feel it? I mean, as men, do you feel it that, I look at it, I'm nowhere near a divorce with my wife or anything like that, but in the back of my mind, I keep thinking, I don't know, has she talked to you?
No.
Do you guys know something?
I think you're good.
Do I have a home to go to tonight? What in the world?
I've got a couch for you.
Thanks, Ruben. You're a true friend. I get the doghouse at Alex's. I got a couch at No thanks to the doghouse. I've got a real friend over here.
Oh, man. It's a really nice doghouse.
I don't know. My gut tells
it
me, though,
heated?
that if it ever came down to it, the judge is going to rule against me for being a guy.
Right.
Yes, no?
Well, yeah. I mean, from a technical standpoint, I don't think the court documents would ever say that. But again, the indication is this is what we get. It's like you said. it seems, again, I don't have the stats in front of me, but it seems like that is more often than not the case.
Well, here's the other
Absolutely.
thing to go along with what you guys are saying. In the vast majority of cases where the dad does want the kid or something, it's like, does the dad actually step up and do what he's supposed to? I've had lots of friends that were divorced when they, their parents were divorced when they were young. The mom got custody, and the dad was just like gone. And so it's like, have we done it to ourselves here?
Well, there might be
That's
something
valid.
to that. I heard what Alex said. We were gone in the home when kids were little anyway, because we tended to be out in the
Right.
breadwinners. But a lot of guys, I guess a lot of guys are dogs. I mean, I've got daughters, and so I'm not watching guys with a suspicious eye. That guy's a dog. That guy's a dog. That guy's
Right.
going to run if something bad happens. Maybe we have done some of it to ourselves. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, that's the feeling that I was getting. I'm thinking about the Hollywood scene, and you have all these father figures in there that are treated quite poorly, and everybody laughs at that.
Right.
Well, yeah, I've watched those shows too, and I was laughing as well. And
Well,
so,
some of them are funny.
Some of them are funny, and
Yeah.
so I think that because of comedy and many other things, we've just kind of let it go for a long time. So between allowing Hollywood to do this to us, between being in the workplace all the time, between coming home so tired and saying, "Okay, mom's going to take care of this," a lot, I think that we have slowly distanced ourselves and not really had a voice, and all of a sudden we found ourselves in a mess, and that's the mess we're in now, where some judge says, "Oh, okay, well we'll just let mom decide what sex this boy is going to be."
Yeah, I know. This one it's radical again. I chose to go to the end zone with the story, but maybe we are to blame. Maybe we are to blame to some regard, because hey, if things go bad, we can run, and mothers really can't. There are mothers who run. There's no mistaking
No,
that.
absolutely.
But that's also on the fringes of what you
Right.
see.
And if kids are little, if I were a judge, I know which way. Like, say the kids are under the age of 8 or 9, I'd probably lean in the mother's favor, just because during those years it seems like the female values are probably needed quite a bit there. Nurture, security, mommy, that kind of thing. There comes a point where young men, though, tend to break away from mommy and want something else. They want to be a man. And so if the kids are little and I'm a judge, I'd probably lean in favor. You know who's going to take better care of them? I can be honest enough to say I'd probably lean in favor of the mom. The mom's probably going to take care of them. The dad's probably going to let them play with power tools. Right?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And they should.
Yeah.
And they should.
What's wrong
Well,
with
we'll
that?
we'll come to that after the break. No, there is a role for fathers, and I think danger is part of that role. I
part
think
of it.
we'll come to. I see the break coming. They're playing the music because you guys talked so much.
Already.
We're out of time, especially you, Ruben. You were so chatty.
Oh, I
during that
know.
Yeah, we'll come back in a moment and talk about Jake Donovan and the custody battle that he's currently in. The story, the untold story. That's not true. It's not the untold story of Discovery Mountain. But we're talking about our fathers still needed in this day and age, or have we moved past that as a society? What is God's role for fathers? What do men bring to the family unit? We're going to take a break. I hope you get a pen and paper and write down this information from the Voice of Prophecy, because this is an offer that you do not want to miss out on. Write it all down, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Are you searching for answers to life's toughest questions, like, where is God when we suffer? Can I find real happiness? Or is there any hope for our chaotic world? The Discover Bible Guides will help you find the answers you're looking for. Visit us at BibleStudies.com or give us a call at 888-456-7933 for your free Discover Bible Guides. Study online on our secure website, or have the free guides mailed right to your home. There is never a cost or obligation. The Discover Bible Guides are our free gift to you. Find answers in guides like, Does My Life Really Matter to God? And A Second Chance at Life. You'll find answers to the things that matter most to you in each of the 26 Discover Bible Guides. Visit BibleStudies.com and begin your journey today to discover answers to life's deepest questions.
Sometimes I think we should just leave the microphones live during the break, because the best discussions happen during the break. And Kyle, you were just during the break. We've been talking about fathers. Do we still need fathers? What's the role of a male in a family, and so on? And in one thing I hear a lot of these days is, well, there's male privilege. In a marriage, the father is the privileged part of that marriage, and he oppresses the women, and men have it better than women, and so on. But you raised an interesting statistic in the break. Why don't you share that with us? Because it does tell a story that maybe would help us unpack what fatherhood is and should be.
Yeah, so we were talking about, when there's not a dad in the home, what does that do to the children? And you've got both boys and girls in the home, and yet you can see the consequences of not having a father in the home are much more bad for boys than girls. And so this individual was taking a look at the suicide rates between boys and girls, and from 0 to 9, basically even suicide rates.
That breaks my heart that there's even a suicide rate for
of a 9-year-old.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
what kind of a?
It'd be
You're
a
just
horrible
ripping my heart out
situation.
as a pastor. What kind of child doesn't see life worth living under the age of 9? And I
Well-
know it happens. My brother worked as victim services and had to cut down an 8-year-old boy one day.
Yeah.
And
I
he
mean,
still
the
hasn't recovered
situations
from that.
that the kids are growing up in is
Yeah. Okay.
is
So
horrible.
basically, even between boys and girls.
Yeah, 10 from the age 10 to 14, the rate of suicide goes up 2 times for boys. 15 to 19, 4 times for boys. From 20 to 24, boys are 6 times more likely to commit suicide than girls. And it's like, you take a look at, like you said, from the last 50 years, in the family, the fathers have been leaving the family since the 50s, really since the 60s, in the sexual revolution.
When birth control became widely available and divorce became a much more, after the sexual revolution, divorce suddenly became more possible
And easy.
and easy.
Yeah. And so these dads that aren't in the home, this is the toll that it's having on the boys. And then so the boys, they don't have a dad at home, and then they go to school. Well, the rate of male teachers in schools, and so they're really just around women all the time. And so
Right.
that's the kinds of
And to be clear, little boys also need moms. But
yeah, I'm not saying
But
that.
we've come to the point in society where we almost think of the dad as a disposable figure.
Yeah.
And I think Alex is right. Partly it's our own fault because we started disappearing. A lot of men are dogs, so we just disappeared. But it is definitely having a toll. I'd never heard those numbers before. 6 times the suicide rate for young men. And
That's so sad.
now, were those from homes that had no father?
Yeah, this is when the dad leaves.
That's incredible.
Wow.
It's
What
incredible.
does a dad bring to children?
I was raised in a family where it's a Hispanic family, strong Hispanic values. My mom stayed at home. My dad expected certain things, but my dad worked hard, but he would come home and he would be tired, and he loved the television. He was addicted to TV, and so immediately, as soon as he'd get home, he'd turn the TV on. He'd watch TV till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And then he'd go back to work. And so most of my life, I grew up not really having my dad there. My mom is the one that was always there. So when we talk about who played ball with you outside, well, that was my mom. Who taught you to drive? That was my mom. Everything that I learned, even though she didn't know how to play ball or anything, she was always out there trying to help me. The thing that strikes me now as I look back at that is this void, this constant void that was there in the little son yearning to have his daddy. That affected me some into my adulthood years ago. Before my dad passed away, he and I had a chance and an opportunity to talk about those things. And even then, the amount of pain that I had just having the conversation of why weren't you there for me, and we were able to work it out. But I tell you, it was amazingly uplifting to hear him apologize, and he broke down, he cried, he said he was so sorry. And that really healed a lot of the hurt. But I had carried all that hurt for many, many years. And I can't blame my mother for what she did. She did the very best she could. And any child would say, man, you had a great home. Look at how much time you spent with your mom. But even though I spent that much time with my mom, there was this huge void in there that my dad didn't fill, and that really hurt.
Sure, and your mom really stepped up and filled that void.
She did.
Or did the best she could.
But it's not a complete replacement. If
It
I'm hearing
wasn't.
you right.
Absolutely
You
not.
still felt the void. It wasn't
right.
the same playing ball with your mom.
See, that's interesting because my dad would probably say the same thing about his dad. But when I grew up, my dad was very involved in my life. I think to counteract the balance to counteract that part where his dad wasn't there, he was like, I'm not going to have that for my son.
That's right.
You know, and so and I see that in your life too. You know, you're very involved with your kids. You know?
And it's
Yeah, what
partly
difference has
because
that
of
made? I wanted to ask you, what difference has that made to you now? You felt that void, so what is it that you see yourself bringing to your family?
Well, here's the reality, and here's the difficulty of it. As much as we say we don't want to grow up to be like our parents,
Oh, you will.
then
You will
you
do it.
you know.
Yeah, you
So
will.
there's a part of me that's a workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not addicted to television, but I'm addicted to work, and so I
Yeah.
work all the time. And this is, you know, we're just being open here,
Mm.
but there's times that I'm at home and I'm thinking about work,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm feeling guilty because
all the
I'm with
time.
my family, but I should be opening the computer and doing stuff. So, you know, you fight those demons, you fight that battle.
I feel completely guilty if I'm just hanging with my kids and not doing work. I'll be honest about it. It's just like my whole being is screaming, but you have the following
That's right.
due by next Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So, you know, I've had to make serious concerted efforts to try to spend time with my kids, but sometimes I don't spend the time that I should, and I'll give you this example. My undergraduate degree is in physical education, and so sports was my entire life. Well, I had some bad experiences in that, and so I decided to not be so heavy into sports as I had my kids, and there's some things I haven't taught my kid, how to play basketball and stuff like that. We do all kinds of other stuff. He rides horses now, and we do all kinds of stuff, but things like basketball, baseball, football, the things I grew up playing, I really haven't taught him how to do that really, really well. So a couple of years ago, we were at a youth event, and they all wanted to play basketball, and so I just happened to be there. And he's in the middle of the court and has no idea what to do.
Oh, no.
And so the kids are just running back and forth all around him. He wants to get involved, but he doesn't know how to. I cannot tell you how little I felt. I just felt like a worm that I had completely
And I'm
thrown
laughing,
my son out.
and the rest of us are laughing, but it's a nervous laugh.
You know, so all of a
there's
sudden
some
I'm
truth to
looking at this and I'm saying, you know, I have become my dad.
Yeah.
I've done everything that he
Yeah.
did. I didn't think I was doing it, but sure enough, here I am. And what consequences is my son's name is Chase? What kind of consequences is Chase going to suffer for the rest of his life?
Yeah. I got to tell you, I've caught myself once before, or more than once, saying the phrase, "Be quiet, I'm working."
Yeah.
And
Oh,
thinking,
man.
where have I heard
yeah.
that before?
Oh.
That happens to me on Fridays all the time.
Be quiet, I'm working.
Yeah.
Be quiet. What do dads bring to children that mothers don't?
Oh man, my kids love to wrestle with me.
Danger.
Yes,
Yeah.
my son. I'll come home and he'll go, "Dad, are you ready to wrestle?" I'm like, "Let's do this."
Yeah.
You know, I think it's, and that's very dependent on the person, the relationship, the family that you have. You know, for us, you know, and I've kind of come to terms with this, you know, in the recent maybe 12 to 24 months, and I felt guilty, and that it's, you know, I'm not the comforter in chief in my house. But I am the silly one. I am the one who makes them laugh, and not to
Yeah.
say my wife doesn't, but that's my quality time with my kids, and she is very much a comforter, which, you know, and so we
Are
really
you
meet
the?
each
You
other.
say you're not comforter in chief, Reuben, but are you the guy that's like, quit crying? It's not that bad. Is that you?
You know,
Suck
in
it up,
different
boy.
words. You know,
Toughen up.
Yeah, you know, maybe I go overboard sometimes, but
I saw you do this, Kyle, yesterday.
Yeah,
to
no,
your
I
son.
can-
You were like,
yeah.
you're all right, boy.
You're fine.
that's right. Yeah.
Well,
No,
here's
really.
the thing.
That's it.
He did not get hit in the face
Yeah.
that hard.
You know,
I saw what happened.
I don't want
Toughen up.
I don't want the kids to think I'm insensitive, but I want them to be prepared to get hurt.
Well, I
by
saw
life.
a study. I saw a study this morning, knowing we'd be on the show. It said mothers tend to think of the world in relation to their child, like the world revolves around
Yeah,
my child.
I can see that.
Fathers tend to think of their children as how the child is going to relate to the world.
Yes.
Like you're trying
exactly
to
what I
that's
think.
absolutely
you're trying to
true.
prepare them
Absolutely
to go
true.
out.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what your child is going to face when they head out into the
Oh, man.
marketplace, and toughen up
Yeah.
is
Yes.
definitely a father trait.
You are not a
Yeah.
delicate
Exactly
snowflake.
right.
Well,
exactly.
And I think that that's what we bring
I
to
always
the
see it.
family. It's this strength, this stability, this sort of pillar where no matter what happens, they know they can go to their dad for protection. And then when you're talking about raising your child, you want to instill that very same thing in them as well, especially if it's a boy. These are the thoughts that I think, and I've caught myself doing the same. Dude, you've got to stand up. You've got to. In fact, I've said this. You need to be a man. You need to grow up and be a man.
Yeah, and I know that society frowns on that statement. Now, how dare you do that to a boy? But doesn't a boy need that? I had a dad's like, let us take risks. And I know that with Jean, it's like, okay, the kids are learning to drive, and she's like, I don't like this. And when my daughter is speeding a little, I have to say, no, don't drive over the speed limit. But there's a little part of me that's saying, yeehaw, this kid's going to make it in life.
Right?
Yeehaw. Like, that's my girl. I have daughters. I mean, It's
Right.
like, step on it. Go for it. I know, like, the first ticket you ever get's part of your life's experience.
Oh, 10 days into it.
Hey, I know that Jean has gotten a couple of tickets in the last couple of months. So
Yes, she has.
She gets that speed.
Oh, no, here's what happens.
Became
though.
honest.
It's typically women are better at verbal skills. But somehow it irritates Jean to no end. I talk my way out of tickets, and she doesn't seem to be able to do it.
She doesn't flash her eyes and,
No,
do that.
no,
Doesn't
no.
work?
That doesn't
That's
do
what
any good, man.
my wife does that.
I won't even tell you guys how I got on my last ticket. It's not.
It's not pretty.
I told the officer, look, I just
you
dropped
pull
my
the
kid
pastor
off at
card?
camp. I haven't been alone with my wife in
Yeah.
years. I'm in a hurry. And he laughed, said, that's pretty good. No warrants, you go home free. All right, we said that on the air, but father. Now I'm gonna have to use your couch for sure, Ruben. It's better than the
Reel it
doghouse.
back in.
Risk taking, I think, is a big deal, and fathers encourage risk taking because we want to see our kids. We know the reality; they're going to get beat up out there. And we don't want them to collapse the first time that happens. Am I wrong?
That's right.
Absolutely.
And
No,
if
you're right.
nothing is risked,
Exactly.
nothing is gained.
Yes.
Yeah. Competition.
Yes.
That's the other thing I bring. Jean wants everybody to be happy. Although she can be, if we sit down to play a family game, Jean can get competitive. But if we play, what's that game where you conquer the world? Risk. If we play Risk, Jean wants everybody to be happy. And I'm teaching the kids, nobody wins until someone is crying.
Yeah.
That's how you know. That's how you know that you've won. And that's not necessarily.
Monopoly has ended with
No,
the
that's
table getting thrown.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Now, that is not a Christian virtue. I've
Well.
exaggerated for effect. But there's something to it, isn't there? Fathers teach competitiveness, or am I wrong?
No, I want to say
that's fine.
I don't know if you guys are like this, but I want to see my kids dominate your kids.
All right. We're going to have to take a break here in a minute. And then after that, we're going to go to the Bible because it seems like it's way past time to go to the Bible
Amen.
and find some virtues so that Kyle doesn't teach his children to be Hitler.
Exactly.
Yeah. It seems okay. We will have to balance it. We will go to the Bible next. What does the Bible say about fatherhood? And the question we're asking today is, does the world still need fathers? We've moved since the 1960s to a point where some people say, no, what do we need that for? But I think we're paying a toll in this world. We have boys growing up without role models and people who, well, we'll come back to that in a moment. This is the music for the break, means I'm supposed to be quiet now, so we'll be right back after this announcement.
Disclosure is just one of the programs brought to you by the Voice of Prophecy, like the audio adventure program Discovery Mountain. Discovery Mountain is a weekly Bible-based program for kids of all ages and backgrounds. Your family will enjoy faith-building stories with Jake Donovan, Mr. Simon, and others in this small mountain town. Each summer, campers visit Discovery Mountain, where they sing songs, learn about God, and reenact a Bible story with the help of drama teachers Miss Wendy and Miss Tamara. With 24 full episodes every year and programming every week, your family will have something uplifting to listen to every week. Listen to episodes on demand and watch video features from Director Doug at discoverymountain.com or on your favorite podcast platform. That's discoverymountain.com.
I see Joel pointing his finger at me. That means that the microphones must be on. Is that true, Joel? We're back on the air, so now I have to guard what I say. Had quite a discussion in the break about the construct of the home and are fathers needed in the home. What is their role in the home? Let me ask this, guys. Sometimes I used to feel pretty bad, like I'm the bad guy when my wife would make an appeal to me to do something about disciplining the children. And I ended up feeling like the policeman. Go, don't make me go get your father. And it seemed like, okay, mom could hand out a little spanking or something, but if we wait till dad gets home, all hell's going to break loose. I mean, that is the worst thing. Gene didn't do that very often, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, why do I have to be the bad guy? Why is the father the disciplinarian? Is that true in your homes?
I don't feel like you're a bad. It's not like good cop, bad cop.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
You would know about that, but
Yeah, Alex was a cop.
Yeah, pointing to Alex, he was a cop.
Were you a good cop or a bad cop, Alex?
I was a good cop.
I don't
Were
buy
you?
it. You made me sleep in the doghouse. That seems like a bad cop
But you haven't
tactic.
seen this doghouse.
But in our home, you know, I think that it's the man's role to be the disciplinarian. And here's the thing. When my wife disciplines the kids, they get madder and they go off the rails and just get completely crazy. If I discipline them, 2 minutes later they're hugging me. You know, it's a complete dichotomy on what's going on after we discipline the kids, and we discipline them the same way. So
There's some good counseling for you
Yeah.
guys.
what do you mean?
I'm there with
In-
you.
in
I
what-
know.
in what ways,
Well,
Heinrich?
I'm there with you. My family's the same. I would rather discipline my kids than have my wife discipline my kids. She snaps a little bit faster than I am. Sometimes she's a little bit more unreasonable than I am, and so she's just great.
Oh no!
Did Stacy listen
Oh
to
no!
this?
You're welcome to use my doghouse.
I've got a couch for you too, Alex. I have two
No,
of them.
I mean it's true. Personalities are different, and so I'm a lot more tolerant than she is. So I would rather do the disciplining. Now I'm not at home as much, so she ends up doing that.
Yeah.
But I would much rather talk to the kids, and I
So
agree
it's
with you.
special
Kyle.
when Dad disciplines you in your house.
That's right.
So you enjoy spanking the children? Is that what you just said?
No. I wasn't quite saying that.
Let's not go that far.
It's the opposite in my home. I'm easily the hotter temper. I'm easily going to. I always
I
mete
can
out.
see that.
Oh yeah, I mete out the harsher punishment every time. With Gene, it might be, all right, you know what? You're not watching TV with your friends tonight, or you can't go to your friend's house tonight. It's me like, no driving, 5 weeks. It's like,
I
and
don't
then if
have
they
that
talk
yet.
back a little bit, 8 weeks. I'm only exaggerating a little. I did mete that out once. So you can't drive the car for 3 weeks, and they, but Dad, and that just but Dad was enough. Like, okay, 4. Got anything else to say?
Then it becomes a punishment for you, and you're like, now I have to drive my daughters around.
Right.
Yeah, I know. But
Yeah.
I'm the hotter temper. And you try to. As a man, I think, okay, go cool off before you mete out discipline, because it's inappropriate when
Yeah,
you're
that's true.
hot and
Oh,
angry.
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But in our house, I don't know. I guess I'm the bad guy. It's like, okay, if Dad deals with it, it's far more serious. I don't know. Ruben, in your house.
You know, and I was saying in the break, it's complicated in my house. It depends. It depends on the situation, frankly. You know, Kyle, you gave the example, and I'm just being open here. You know, about how the children react to both of you. You know, it can be the opposite. When my kids will blow up on me, especially my dear older one.
Yeah.
Love you, kiddo.
Yeah, they'll
and
listen to this in 10 years.
You know,
Yeah.
it all depends on the situation. To be fair, meanwhile, and sometimes it boils my skin. It's like, meanwhile, and that gets my temper up. I'm like, and meanwhile, my wife is like, do it now. Okay. And I'm like,
your wife
how'd you
is
do that?
telling you
Yeah.
to
No,
get
no,
this
no.
over with, or
No, she's talking to the kids.
talking
The
to
same
the
thing,
kids.
Same
Oh,
thing
okay.
that I said. But on the other hand, I have situations where
I
it
suddenly
works the other
pictured
way
you
around.
with a belt and your wife saying, do it now. I'm thinking, okay, we need an intervention in this house.
That's their
No
good, their good
children
skill.
have been harmed in the making of this episode, I promise.
Do it now.
Do it now.
There's good counseling
You
for
know,
that too, man.
there is. We're still figuring that one out, but at the same time, there is something to be said. We're not going to make it through, are we?
We'll make it.
There is something to be said about having a cohesive approach, which we do, and not losing your temper. That's the biggest one. My kids will detect that, like that. And just when I think I have, it's not like I lose my temper and blow up and throw things around, but if they detect the slightest frustration in me, that could mean the difference between them doing what I ask them to do or not doing it. And so that moment for me to go cool off and approach them, and they know, they said, I need time, and I walk away. And when I come back, they know that I mean it, It's
I can tell you, at my house, because I'm gone during the day a lot more, that seems to be where my wife fights the biggest battles with the kids. Yeah. And so she does end up disciplining a lot. And then by the time I get home, then it's just a couple of hours before they go to bed, and so we're playing together, we're having a great dinner together. And so her frustration is more of the fact that every time you come in, you play with the kids and you act like the angel, and I look like the devil.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, see, my dad, when I was growing up, worked only about 7-8 minutes from work. And I remember on many occasions him coming home to work to discipline me. And so I've told my wife the same thing. I only live
he left work?
He left work, came home, disciplined me.
Oh, I would live in fear of that.
Yes, and I did.
Yeah.
And so
Kyle,
so that's when
what did you do?
No, I'm not getting into that. But
Just that tone
I mean,
probably
he
raised a
left
memory or
work.
two.
Yeah.
What did you do?
What did you do?
But so I told my wife, when we're looking for a place to live here, it's I either want to live close enough that this is an option. And literally, this was one of the reasons.
You actually planned that you could come home and...
Yeah,
wow.
absolutely. Because I want my kids to know that, number one, mom means business, but if you don't do what mom says, dad is 5 minutes away from being here. That's not very long.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm impressed or terrified.
No, I'm
kind of terrified over here.
Yeah, but the thing is when we raise the kids, right now we are training kids.
Yes.
Right.
What are you training your kids for?
Right.
I'm trying to train my kids to walk straight into heaven.
Yeah.
That's right.
And the stuff that we're allowing our kids to get into or allowing to come into the home speaks directly to what we're training our kids for. And so, now that I'm 20, 30, years later from my dad.
Oh, I thought for a minute you were going to try and convince us that you were 20.
No, I'm not. But I'm saying, I look back at that and I go, I appreciate my dad, being consistent in that.
Yeah, and consistent is a tough one. I don't know. Do you guys, when it comes to how strict am I as a dad and how lenient am I, it took a little while to get there. I'm very strict in the beginning. That's a Dutch-German thing that you were pointing out, Alex. But there's part of me that, if you say no to everything all the time, even if you don't like what the child's about to do, then are they going to associate my attitude with God?
Yes.
And God allows some freedom of choice. So as they got older, they'd say, Dad, can we watch this TV show? And I'm thinking, all right, I don't like it. It's not the worst TV show in the whole world, but if I say no to everything all the time, so my approach would be, hey, all right, let's watch it together. You're going to take notes, and you're going to tell me whether or not the people who wrote that show were Christians and how you could tell.
Yeah.
They were older. I wouldn't do that with a 5-year-old because everything you watch is, I'm talking 14, 15, 16.
Sure.
And I found myself giving more latitude as time went on instead of always no. I don't know. Alex, I saw you open your Bible. That's an important point in the show.
Yeah, I as Kyle was talking, I thought about the story of Samuel in First Samuel chapter 3. And so I just wanted to read a verse here. I'm getting old, so now I got to put
your glasses
put
on.
my glasses on so I can see my own Bible. It's pitiful, man. But you have this story in Samuel. You have this priest that has these sons that the Bible says are wicked, and he's supposed to be raising them in the right way. And of course, little Samuel comes to live with them. So looking here at chapter 3,
right,
and in verse 12 and 13,
Eli, right?
Eli. In that day I will perform against Eli. This is God speaking to Samuel. In that day I will perform against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house from beginning to end. And 13 is really what captured me here. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knows, because his sons made themselves vile, and he did not restrain them.
Interesting. Interesting. And sometimes men are, I mean, we're told in this day and age, men don't belong in the home. They're too severe. They're too strict. But God holds him accountable for not disciplining his children.
That's right.
He blames the father in this case for children that have run wild. And Hophni and Phineas have run wild. They're
Absolutely.
irreligious.
Yeah.
That's right.
They're corrupt. They took bribes, it says.
They're leading the people astray. I mean, there's great consequences. This is why I thought about this. You talked about being close to your kids because you wanted to make sure that they're raised up in such a way that they follow God.
I
respect that.
I read somewhere that a child's character is basically set by the time they are 6.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've read the same thing.
And that scares me to no end. And so, when my wife and I, we're just like, okay, we have the, till they're 6 and beyond, but, till they're 6, we really have to stay on top of this. And then after that, hopefully.
After that, you just quit.
Well, no, after
they can raise themselves from 7
After
on.
that, hopefully it's
move
stuck.
further.
But if you can, the first 2 years were very difficult, and you're sitting there trying to, balance all this stuff. So
I've had some people say, well, you disciplined your kids when they were 2 and 3. You should wait till they're 7, 8 years old. They don't understand. It's the opposite. It's completely the opposite. When we started at 2 and 3 with discipline and no, and they did it anyway, okay, a little swat on the butt. And that was in the days when you couldn't go to prison for that. A little swat on the butt. I never had to do it again. Past the age of 3, we never, ever had to do that again. The character is set young.
Yeah.
And I think society understands that. Parents don't seem to, but society does. Look what the school systems are doing. You're training a new generation. You're doing it from young. Politics does it, trains a new generation. Yeah. I think those formative years are so essential, and many times we just miss that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. You were going to say something, Ruben.
No, I mean, I think you covered it. All of this, speaks of, train up a child in the way he should go, and, he will not depart for it. I think, I don't think the Bible mentions an age, but, this research about, a child's character being kind of quote unquote solidified for lack of a better term by the age 6. I think there's wisdom, and the Bible had that wisdom before we had the science to it. I think it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Having a now 10-year-old almost, I can tell you, it definitely bears to be the truth from my perspective. So
one of my problems is stop being the dad. I've got one who's 19, and it's like, okay, I'm an advisor and not your daddy at this point. And I did that. Well, we can talk about that after the break. I see we've got seconds to go to the break. And I do want to have a Bible study on, because beyond the story of Samuel, which I'm glad you brought that up, Alex, that shows God holds us accountable if we refuse to discipline our children as fathers. I think there's more. There's more to a biblical role. And I think once we take a look at that, it becomes quite obvious that God's plan is not one parent, although some listening don't feel badly if you're in a single parent situation. That's not what the point we're trying to make. We're talking the ideal.
Sure.
And sometimes marriages fall apart, and sometimes you have to get the dad out of the house because he is an abuser. So that's not what we're talking about. But we are going to look at the ideal. What is an ideal father? What is God's idea for a man in the house as he relates to the children, as he relates to the wife? Our topic today is, does the world still need fathers? You're listening to Disclosure. My name is Sean Boonstra. You're about to hear an amazing offer from the Voice of Prophecy. Grab a pen and paper. You want to write down all the details, because this kind of offer only comes along once in a while.
Are you searching for answers to life's toughest questions? Like, where is God when we suffer? Can I find real happiness? Or is there any hope for our chaotic world? The Discover Bible Guides will help you find the answers that you're looking for. Visit us at BibleStudies.com or give us a call at 888-456-7933 for your free Discover Bible Guides. Study online on our secure website or have the free guides mailed right to your home. There is never a cost or obligation. The Discover Bible Guides are our free gift to you. Find answers in guides like, Does My Life Really Matter to God? And A Second Chance at Life. You'll find answers to the things that matter the most to you. Visit BibleStudies.com and begin your journey today to discover answers to life's deepest questions.
Again, I wish the microphones were on during the break because Kyle just revealed why he lives so close to the office. What was it again? Your mom told you not to eat, and you did, right?
Children, obey your parents.
Yeah. Your mom said, don't eat, we're having dinner. You did it anyway, and your dad came home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Children, obey your parents.
Do you need a quiet moment?
How did that go?
Well, and then
and looking back now, it makes for a funny story. But it's one of those things where it's like that was the consistency that I needed at that moment.
absolutely.
Because otherwise, no one wants a kid that's not obeying them in the house.
Right.
Yeah.
Get a job, kid.
During the break, Alex and I
Right?
were talking about times. I remember mouthing off my mother one time, and my father put a decisive and quick end to that. I'll never forget that. I'll put it this way. I was well aware of the fact that at 14, I was not ready to take him on.
Yeah.
And we needed that. We
yeah.
absolutely needed that.
Oh, yeah.
I know in today's day and age, everybody says, you can't do that. It did me a world of good.
Sure.
Changed my life.
Yeah.
I knew not to talk to my mom ever like that, man.
No, there's truth to that. And there's a difference between abuse and...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I tried taking on my dad a few times. I remember one time he actually picked me up and threw me because he saw me picking on my brother, and he grabbed me by the collar to let me know exactly what being picked on felt like and tossed me. He tossed me like a beanbag. And nowadays, you go to prison for that, I suppose. I wonder if I could still prosecute my father. I wonder,
Get over it.
sue him for that. No, but I don't know if there's enough of that. And we're not talking abuse and stuff. I know
No.
our subject in the last segment was discipline. There's a difference between abuse, but there was something about not knowing what my dad was capable of.
That's right.
Well, and here's the other thing.
For sure.
The mystery.
Children want to know where the boundaries are.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if
Yep.
you're not there to show them where the boundaries are, they're going to go wild.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get to the point when they're 8, 9, 10 and go, man, I wish I would have shown them where the boundaries were when they were 2 or 3.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's too late.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you, by the time I'm 15, I'm bigger than my mom, and she's
Sure.
just not a threat. And
Yeah.
and you feel, and when you're 15 and you're a young man with testosterone raging, and you're trying to prove you're a man, you prove you're a man in all the wrong ways.
That's right.
And so you're not scared of your mom, but there's something about dad. There is something about dad in the house, boy. What else is he capable of? And there's a little bit of the alpha dog thing there. I think there needs to be an alpha dog in a pack.
I'm setting my stakes at the house right now. My son is 14. He's taller than I am.
Uh-oh.
And I'm just telling him, dude, you don't want to try it.
And he's wearing-
I'll still take you.
He's wearing Spurs too.
He is wearing
I was
Spurs,
like, man, I'm not.
Yeah, you might be tall at
I'm
14,
not getting that.
but you're not quite done developing.
No,
you're not.
And
He's still skinny
I
as a rail.
totally lost any challenge
Yeah.
with my dad at that age, man. I just lost because, yeah. All right, let's go to the Bible. What is God? I think it's pretty clear this is a faith-based program. God wants fathers in the home. We've established that. They're there for a reason. We teach. I think men tend to teach values like rules and order and competition and independence and risk-taking. We've established those rules. We could have had time today for like what happens to a young man who doesn't have a father in the house. He doesn't know what a man is supposed to be when he gets out in the
That's
world.
exactly right.
And a young woman, when she goes out dating, doesn't necessarily know what a husband should look like if there wasn't a good, positive role model
And that's
in
how
the
you
house.
get these abusive things, because the Bible's very clear. You're not supposed to be abusive.
Yeah.
And
Right.
but if it's modeled to you that way in your house, and you know
By example.
exactly.
Well, what does God
know-
expect? What does God expect?
Yeah.
I think one of the things, I'll just throw this out on the table. I think that God expects that we would demonstrate to our children what He is like. You know,
Yes.
he uses the analogy of father to describe Himself to all of His children. And I think that one of the roles we should be playing is what would a Heavenly Father be like? Because I've seen what happens when a father isn't that. And there's this tendency of children in the end to hate God because they think He's like that.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
I think we're to model God in the house.
Yep.
Gentlemen?
Yeah, as you're talking, I think of Genesis 3. And it's probably a culmination of everything we've been talking about, but I think of Genesis 3. In Genesis 3, you have a father and children type of relationship. You have the God that has created Adam, He's created Eve, and then as they end up turning away from Him, He has to discipline them.
Yes.
And it's quite clear there are consequences for their action, and He does what He needs to do. But there's some parts in there that really are touching. The fact that although He knows what they have done, He's still seeking them. He's still walking in the cool of the day, trying to reason with them. And then there's that intonation there of what God is going to do to save them. The fact that that you get sort of the first fruits of understanding the plan of salvation, and as I think about that, I see, this is God. This is the love of God. This is where the Bible combines justice and mercy together, and that's what we're supposed to, as fathers, demonstrate to our children as well.
Absolutely. I'm looking at Proverbs 20 and verse 7. I looked this one up before the show. It says this: "The righteous man walks in his integrity; his children are blessed after him." That means modeling integrity does something to improve our children's lot in life. And when the father is missing and he doesn't demonstrate, manly virtues or fatherly virtues or demonstrate integrity, one thing that God is asking from us is to demonstrate integrity. Now, I'm not always good. I mean, I try to be integral. I try to demonstrate integrity. I blow it once in a while. But in the whole, that's what God's asking from me. Show your children what a real man looks like. Show your children what integrity looks like, and their life will go better as a result. And I think that this is almost a prophecy, this verse, of what happened since the 1960s. There's not a lot of integrity in the homes, and children have been cut loose from their moorings, and I think we're watching that. We're watching a whole generation that denies whether there's right or wrong, period.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Your
there's no
truth
boundaries.
is your truth, and my truth is my truth. It's craziness.
The word blessing in here is what really stands out to me. Integrity did too, but blessing. Are we a blessing in our homes? Are we a blessing to our children? If we were to ask our children, are you blessed by Dad?
Yeah, it depends on what day you want to go in and ask my kids.
Right.
They just ground me and I can't drive, right?
Yeah.
For 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
One of the
18 years, man.
18 years. You didn't bless me at all.
No.
Alex, when you brought up Genesis 3, right then when Adam and Eve sinned, Christ already goes in and pays the price. So as a loving father, he has already, given his life for them right there from the foundation of the world. And, they don't know it yet, but he's already, gone through the steps that he needs to take.
His willingness to do this
Exactly.
Yeah.
is what's incredible.
Well, Ephesians 5, when it talks about what the role is of a man in the house, one of the things that it identifies is we are to love our wife as Christ loves the church, which means up to and including you're the first to go.
That's right.
You will die
Yes.
first in this home for the good of your entire family. You will put your life on the line. So protector, I think, is in that role as well.
Yeah.
And that stems plan of salvation. God puts himself in the line. I'm going to save you. I will lay down my life for you.
And he does.
But God asks the same thing of the Father. And I know that full well. Like, you're the first to go. If someone breaks into this house at 2 a.m, you stand in front of your family.
Yeah, I'm the one
that's
getting
right.
up, checking the door, and because there was some kind of crazy noise.
No, I hide under the bed. Gene, go see what that is.
Yeah.
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 No, I don't.
I don't.
I hide under Ruben's couch and do that. Hey, Ruben, go see what that is.
I'm in my
speaking-
doghouse.
Yeah, you're in your
I
doghouse.
got a couch for you, man. I got a second couch.
Thanks,
I'm
Ruben.
happy
You're
to
so
share.
kind,
I'm
man.
just, but speaking of couches, it's a funny story. I was sleeping on the couch once.
Nice.
No, I fell asleep on the couch. I sitting there scrolling through my phone, and before you know it, it's like, you don't want to get up, and so the next day, my kid, I don't know, but somehow like my youngest one noticed these things, and we're talking. I don't know, we're at church or we're some church friends or something like that, and somehow the topic of the fact that I fell asleep on the couch that night came up, and her reason in her head why I went to sleep on the couch was because I was going to protect her from bad guys. That's what she came out with.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
We had no discussion. There was no absolute, and it's
You were
funny.
thinking bad guys.
You didn't
Bad
tell
guys.
You didn't
Where?
you didn't
But
tell her the truth,
but
did you?
that's absolutely true. I think it's natural. This is what my kids see.
Well, and that's what they expect.
It's what they expect.
Yeah.
They expect that
And
I'm
it's
going to protect
comforting.
them. And
So
it's
sleep on the
comforting.
couch more.
Yeah. Well.
No, but hey, let me just add to that, because this picture came to my mind when we all have children. So we've gone through this as you have your hand, and your little child puts their hand in yours, and you realize the size difference there.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So many times that they've done that, and I've thought to myself, who am I? What have I been called to do? Look at the size difference.
Right.
Look at the strength difference, and there is that level of protection that we have as fathers, and that God has over us.
Has the thought ever popped into your mind when they do that? It's like, oh my word, they trust me. And I know
Right.
who I am and they don't.
If they knew,
Yeah. I mean, that's just being honest. It's like, oh, I'm a dad now. And God expects me to put my life on the line for this little one.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, you know,
let's go. I'm sorry.
no. I was just going to say, one of the things that strikes me is, I talk about how I discipline the children, but also, there's a verse. I'm trying to look it up here as we speak here in Psalms. It's Psalms 103:13. As a father
Yeah.
shows compassion to his children, so the Lord shows compassion, to those who fear Him. That goes hand in hand with the discipline portion. And when I can turn around, I can discipline my child, but at the same time, I'm sitting there loving on them.
That's right.
It's special.
Let me turn this on its head for a minute. I know we're running out of time, but let me turn this on its head and back to Genesis 3, because in Genesis 3, sometimes I think we get the idea that Adam and Eve failed, and then God is dispatched to bring justice. And that's, I think it's totally different. I think just like us, something happens to our children, something causes them to
Right.
fall, and
Oh, yeah.
and this righteous anger comes down. And so we maybe should picture this as a little different. God has now come down to protect his children.
Amazing. I think that's absolutely right. I always picture God when he's crying out, Adam, where are you? I picture it with tears in his eyes. What
right.
have you done?
Yeah.
What is this going to cost us? It's kind of like when your kids do something that's self-harmful. It's like, what have you done? Your fear is, I'm going to lose this child. They're
That's
not
right.
ready
That's
for
right.
life. And I tell you, one of the most rewarding things that has ever happened for me, and it's like I've got one daughter who's left home already, and another one who's about to go. It's when I get these little notes. I got a birthday card a little while ago, and in there was, Dad, thanks for teaching me X. And doesn't matter what X was. I thought, oh my goodness. All that time, I thought none of this was landing.
That's right.
They weren't hearing anything. But when they got out in the world and faced the real world and suddenly realized why I had told them that, and I got that, Dad, thanks, because I'm ready for life now. Thank you for teaching me X. I don't know of any
What a
greater
reward.
reward than that.
Yeah.
I don't know of any
That's
greater
great.
reward than that. Being a
that
dad is
thing.
rewarding.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a little bit of that with my daughter this morning. She wanted to know, my little one, 6 years old. She wants to know what I want for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I've truly gotten to the point now that I just want to be with them.
Yeah.
And she couldn't understand that. No, Daddy, I really want to know what you want for Christmas. And it's like,
Aw.
honey, I just want to spend time with you. I want to spend time with you.
Yeah.
I want you to grow and love, and man, the kids are amazing.
And my youngest got me a model for my birthday last year, like the old glue together.
Really?
20 years. She got me a model, and I was touched because it meant a whole, I think 3 hours of sitting together and putting
Man.
it together. I loved it. I said, that's the greatest gift I've ever gotten. But Dad, it was so inexpensive. You don't understand. What I wanted
That's right.
was you with me, and we
That's
did
right.
that together.
And it's what they will remember and what we will remember for eternity.
Yeah. Well, I see 45 seconds on the clock until they play the music and sign us off. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I think the consensus is, do we still need fathers in this world?
Absolutely.
I think society's paying the price for excluding fathers from the equation.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Men may be to blame for some of that, let's be honest about it. But I think society as a whole is paying a huge price. Dads, don't give up. You need to be in that home. You need to be with those kids, and they need you. You can ignore what society's telling you. You can ignore what the sexual revolution is telling you. God designed you to be in that home, and you can be a man, too. You don't have to be a feminine father, as the world is telling you. You can be a dad and go out there and do dad things with your kids and raise them the way God intended. Until next time, this is Sean Boonstra, and you've been listening to Disclosure.